Welcome, everybody, to today's Building My Legacy podcast. I have with me today Robert Syfert. He is the co-founder and chief visionary at realestateinvestor.com. He's also the founder of Investor Pro, which is a proprietary list manager process. So here are some of the things that I find interesting about Robert. He has developed tools and online processes to help make the real estate business more efficient and not so much so it doesn't consume the time like often real estate does. It tends to eat into your personal time. He has about a decade of experience in the industry. He's sold and managed hundreds of investment properties and has built 3 successful startups from the ground up. So he has a variety of experience and background. And from that, Robert, I'm going to let you share with the audience what brought you into doing some of the things that you're doing and where you're trying to head with your business.
Yeah, so that is a great introduction that our great team has written. You made a very valid point, and it kind of fuels everything of where I've gotten to and where I'm headed, which is oftentimes real estate is time consuming and takes a lot of our energy. Yet most of us, including me, before I got into real estate, thought I'll just be an instant millionaire and it's going to take no time at all because I don't work for anybody else anymore. And it couldn't be further from the truth. So I worked more than I ever did before. And so everything that you see now was really a culmination of the years of figuring out what was taking all of my time and then building processes and tools that solve those problems for myself so that I actually could have time with my family, enjoy the money that I was making in real estate, and expand my business beyond that. As a result, I found out that, just like you said, there were way more people than I realized in our space that had the same problem I did. It wasn't unique that I was spending all of my time and wasting it and not enjoying life or the money that real estate brought me. And so I created what is now realestateinvestor.com by creating a tool for myself. I was just solving my own problem. So I wasn't some great hero out to solve everyone else's problem. I literally was just solving my own. And then in a mastermind found out, well, everyone else has the same problem. So now I've taken it on as a mission to continue to solve those problems. So we continue to identify ways that people are just not being efficient with their time, not efficient with their energy. And that's our mission. Mine personally, just to go on and help, if I can help 1,000 investors change their life and be more efficient, that's going to have a ripple effect into all their communities that will impact over 1 million people. Because 1,000 people touch thousands of people in their day. So that's really it. That's it. Everything that I do is how to positively impact those people, giving them a better life so that they can give others a better life.
Okay, so Robert, one of the things that you talk about is how to dial up your follow-up. What does that mean? And how on earth do you do that? Because follow-up is usually the Achilles heel of people.
Follow-up is the number one thing. I've been around sales besides real estate for a long time. And I can tell you, as I'm sure you know, follow-up is it. Like, I don't care what you sell. If you're not following up, you will not be a long-term successful business. And that's follow-up in your marketing, follow-up after the fact. There's multiple ways to do that. But turning it up is really, ironically, extremely simple. Now, simple doesn't mean easy, right? Most people, there's actually a Harvard statistic or study, and Google has done this too, that most people don't do business with you or your business until at least somewhere between the 8th and 12th time that you followed up with them. Most people and businesses think that transaction happens on the first or second time, and that's all they do is talk to you the first. Maybe a small percentage also follow up a second time, but most business is actually done on the 8th and 12th touch, somewhere in there. And Google says it's even more, like 30 something. So how you turn that up, number one is be aware that if you're not doing that, which most aren't, because it is the number one Achilles heel that I see all over the industry. And it is the number one problem that I solved in my own business. Our salespeople Quite honestly, they sucked at it. They did because they didn't want to do it. They wanted to just work on the people that were ready now, and that's what they're really good with. They're not really good with follow-up and asking and waiting, right? So we created a software to do this because we leverage technology, and technology can get text messages out, phone calls that happen, voicemails that get left, emails that get sent, all with a personalized touch. And so how you turn that up is, in my opinion, technology. Now, if you can't afford any technology, it's as simple as using your Google Calendar or whatever calendar you use and setting a reminder to follow up today. Spend today calling all of the people you've talked to in the past, and do that on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis. That is going to be better than doing nothing. On a next scale, it's very inexpensive to do follow-up, less than a Starbucks coffee a day. And you could literally automate all of your follow-up with everyone you ever get in contact with. That's why I say it's very simple leveraging the technology that's available today to be able to do all the follow-up. And it's going to free up a ton of time, and it's going to make you more money as a result. It just is. For me, I had 3 people that did this for us. So for me, the light bulb was when I replaced $4,000 a month worth of overhead and people with technology that cost me dollars a day.
So speak to me a little bit about that technology. What is it? How does one do that? How can one develop that? Because that's specific to the real estate industry, right? So for other industries, what are things you need to think about to put a follow-up process in place that's automated?
Yep. So a few things that you absolutely must have, and you can do this manually. Like I said, technology just makes it more advanced, right? And so the first thing you think of is, even people that do follow-up, generally speaking, they may have one form of automated. The most common I see is people understand email, and there's a lot of email providers that you just buy an email software and it sends emails for you, right? So a lot of people might do that. The challenge with that is you're only then following up in one format, and email still works, but it is to a small degree. And so I have to back up and give you a little philosophy to lead into no matter where you're at, right? Email's great on average in real estate, and I think most other industries are going to be pretty normal to this. Only about 20% on the good side of your emails actually get opened. So that means if you're only following up an email, 20% of the people that you're trying to follow up with see what you're talking about. The other 80 have no clue you even followed up with them. Got lost, got deleted, went into spam, many reasons, right? So if email is the only follow-up that you have, then again, you're better than someone who does nothing, but you still are only following up with 20% of the people, roughly, right? So I like to use the rule of thumb. There has to be 4 different ways that you follow up in a perfect world, if you really want to dial in follow up. So email's one, and I always say 25% of the people, right? So if your only form is one form, no matter what it is, you're only touching 25% of the people when you follow up. So email's one, because about a quarter of the people will open their email and see what you said. The next is the phone, the common thing everyone knows, right? You can pick up the phone and you can call people. Now, utilizing technology, you can do something called ringless voicemail, which means you don't actually make a phone call, which I do recommend. But with ringless voicemail, you can send a voicemail message to somebody's voicemail on their cell phone without ever actually calling them. So now you can automate several hundreds or thousands in a day, wherever your scale is, of messages being left so they can call you back if they're ready now, but you've still made a touch. And again, only about 25% of people are actually going to open and listen to their voicemail, because there's a big, broad market that don't. I'm one of them. I don't check my voicemail often. And my message says that. Next is text message. You need to be sending text in today's world, and there's easy technology to be able to get texting. Most people know emails, but you have things like MailChimp, GetResponse, Constant Contact, etc. You have ringless voicemail you can get from a company called Sly Broadcast as one big name in that network. Text messaging, you need to be able to be texting. There's lots of different programs out there like Scipio, trying to think of ones that are multi-industry, right, for just that purpose, so that you can have text messaging and it can be automated. So it can, as someone who has opted in, said they want information from you, you then could be sending a follow-up text message, because again, not everyone's going to open that, but there is a certain demographic of people that you're following up with. And even in every demographic, there's communication ways that people like to talk. Some people love to talk on the phone. Some people love to open their email and do emails. Some people, like me, I'm a texter. So I like to text. If you text me, I'm going to reply. Right? I'm unlikely to open my email. Someone else checks that. I'm going to check my voicemail maybe once a week. So you may not even get me in your follow-up. And then the last one, if you're really getting advanced, is some side of personalized mail. So like a high gloss color card, sending a thank you card to somebody, a reminder that you'd like to talk with them, some piece of mail. And again, it's because there is a certain amount of people who love to go to the mailbox, and they're going to read that and they're going to reply to you. So if you're doing all four, you're ensuring that no matter who you're reaching out to, you're touching 100% of your audience that way. So if you're missing any of those, then just know you're 50% there, 25, 75% there. Now, our technology at realestateinvestor.com, just to shamelessly plug our stuff, we created a version that does nothing but the follow-up. And while it is specifically geared to and written towards real estate, I actually use it in 2 other businesses that I've created that have nothing to do with real estate, because it's built and designed in a way that it can do all 4 of those. It's already built in to do all 4, and you don't have to go get 4 different systems. But in a nutshell, you could get all 4 of those systems, and you could put a very well-maintained follow-up system in place for any business you're in.
So if you've developed that app and it works for any business, then are you selling that or licensing it, or what are you doing with that? Can other people use the process you've already created?
Yeah, so you could reach out to realestateinvestor.com if you were interested in licensing it for a different industry. We do licensing agreements on that level. We just haven't publicly went into other verticals as of yet, but we do plan to. If you went there, you could get the system just for yourself and your own business by just getting it's Touch is the platform at the lowest level. It's only a few bucks a day. Less than $100 a month, and it does all the follow-up. And the rest of our professional level is where all the common real estate tools come in, with comping capabilities, contracts, and all the other stuff specific to real estate. But the Touch itself is the core product, which is the phone, email, text, all in one system.
It's a super gift, really, to people, because follow-up is tedious. It's often, I sometimes think of it as being a bit boring, because you just have to crank it out, right?
Mm-hmm. You do. It's just tedious. I can tell you there's one. Now, sometimes there's a purpose for being manual, but I use this system, and I have a particular person that I want to do business with, and I've been following up for 9 months now. I'll never stop. Yes, it is boring in the sense that I just have to remember, it's been about a month. Don't know where we're at yet, so I need to follow up. And I guarantee we'll end up doing business, because I'm the person that will never stop following up.
Got it.
I'll do the tedious, boring things happen to be the biggest payoffs in the long run.
Isn't that often the truth? You also speak about list stacking. Talk a little bit about that and how that has worked for you.
Yeah, so list stacking is definitely something we created, and it really would work in any industry. It's really, when you look at your marketing, so it's really focused on the marketing side, your lead generation side, right? It's starting with great quality data of who is your prospect. So anyone who's spent any time learning marketing, which I know you have, and you've actually studied from someone I would love to learn more from, is the front end data, right, is compelling. So most really good marketers will tell you, get very crystal clear about who your avatar is, right? Who is that person? And if you're really clear, you know everything about them. What are all the pains that reside in them? What are all the pleasures they're after? And if you're really, really clear about who that is, you know how to speak to them. Now, more importantly, though, and this is where list stacking comes in, is how do you find that person? And how do you find the highest caliber of person? So a lot of people, especially when you get into higher level of business, you can buy lists of data that fit certain criteria points, right? And so I'll give you an example. I'll use real estate because it's simple for me to say. I know that if I'm looking to buy an investment property and I want to get a good deal on it, well, then there are certain characteristics about that property and that person that make it potential for a better deal. So that would be things like the house just went vacant. The owner of the house lives in a different state. They're an absentee owner, right? Maybe they just went through a divorce. Maybe there's a potential foreclosure or a tax default coming up on the property, right? So I call these multiple pain points. I can buy a list of data that tells me everyone that's on a probate list, everyone that's on a foreclosure list, everyone that's on an absentee list, everyone that's on a vacant list. And I could go on and on with 30 plus points, right, with real estate. I buy those data sets, and then list stacking is nothing more than taking, which we have a software that does this for us, but you could do this in Excel too, if you're really, really good with Excel, and you manage the ability to what we call stack. So when I stack, what I'm saying is our software identifies that, hey, that property address on the foreclosure list, it's also on your absentee list, and it's in tax default. Well, now I've stacked 3 different lists together. And so I know that if someone's on a stacked list, they're way more likely to do business with me than the person who just had one pain point, right? And so if you apply that to any marketing, that works, right? No matter what industry you're in, you can buy data and lists that meet all of your avatar's pain points. And generally speaking, if you're marketing something to sell, you want to identify what problem or pain they have, and hopefully you have a great solution for that. So you'd like to talk to the people that have the most pain or the biggest, they're more identified to their problem so that they'll want or need your solution, right? And so list stacking is just that. You're taking multiple pain points and you're combing them down into, instead of going after all of the data you've gotten, I would argue you only need to go after the ones that are stacked. So in real estate, we've done over 120 million addresses so far for members. And I can tell you that only about 10% of that ends up as who you should go after once you've stacked your data. So if you look at it that way, 90% of most people's marketing effort is wasted because they're going after everyone versus very highly targeted after who they should go after. And who likely, now you could go after everyone, you'll still end up doing business with the 10% of that list. But what if you only spent money on going after the 10% of the list? That's where list stacking's power is.
So you also talk about leads suck, but you've got a great system. So why do you say that? And what really are you thinking when you make that comment?
You know, part of that comment comes is I'm a salesperson by trade. I've been one for a long, long time. So a lot of stuff is ingrained in me. Most people aren't. And even the ones that are, what is common when you work with salespeople or hire salespeople is you'll always hear I call this the bad salesperson, where their argument is, these leads suck. These leads suck. That's why I can't do business. These leads suck. I can't do business. Well, okay. So I kind of say that statement to flip it upside down. All leads suck. Now what's your argument? Why is that sales guy better than you? Because his leads suck too. Right. So that's really where the statement comes from, is really trying to psychologically flip that for making an equal playing ground to someone who comes out with that statement. Because the truth is all leads suck. It's how you engage with that lead that makes the difference between an amazing company and one that's not. Right. So if you approach it from all leads suck, then it's up to me, the company, the product, the service, to do a compelling job of first caring about that lead, right? Finding out what their actual problem is, and then solving it if my solution so solves it. If you just think that, even if you list stack, all these leads are hot and they're great, and I'm going to do business on the first phone call, you're not, right? It's just, that's not reality. And if you're approaching it that way and you're treating it that way, then you're also, in my opinion, you're most likely not caring for the lead, and you're not hearing them, and you're not listening to them. And personally, this is where most salespeople in any product they're selling fail. They fail by wanting to only do business with the hottest, most motivated, sexy, ready to do business right now lead. And that's just, that's a rarity. Like we call it a bluebird lead in real estate. It's like 1 in 125 leads will be that way, right? So the other 124 doesn't mean you can't do business with them. They all suck. If you treat it that way, then you'll follow up with them. You'll know that you have to approach them with a caring arm and actually listen to them, and know that it's going to take multiple conversations, which again is caring. You in order to follow up, you kind of have to care, right? Like you do. So that's why I say all leads suck. To me, it just equals the playing ground for any, salespeople. Yeah, all leads suck. So your argument just went out the window.
So what's interesting is most people really don't know how to do sales, because sales is hard, methodical, systematic work. And most people want it to be done today and move on, right? And there's a part of it that comes, I think, from those corporate experiences where we do a transaction, we cut a price, we do whatever in order to get the sale, right?
Yep.
So there's a built-in assumption that that's the way it can work. So I find it very interesting, the process that you've gone through. You've eliminated that transactional event, or making that the sole process through which you go. And as you say, those can be the bluebirds, but you're not going to get a lot of the deals. So that's why your competition can walk away with your business.
Yeah. And, just compounding on that, it's that one comment I'm going to add to it. It's the thing that changed everything for me in business. I literally quadrupled my real estate business and then built this other software and services company once I got that right, because I came from sales. So I was taught very well on how to do sales, how to close people, how to do transactions. When I got really, really good at sales is when I realized it's not about the transaction. All business, life is about relationships. And so if you can focus on building relationships, the transactions always take care of themselves. As soon as I focused on relationships and just caring about people and building relationships, my business quadrupled. I mean, I can datametrically show you that shift in the way we spoke with people and the way we dealt with people and the way that we did our follow-up, the business quadrupled, and everything else built off of that.
So a lot of people talk about developing relationships, but I'm not sure that they fully understand what that means. So for you, what does that mean to develop a relationship?
It means a couple things. One, it requires you to listen and talk less, right? And that's where most salespeople think they have to talk, right? I would actually argue that if you're the one doing most of the talking, you're losing, like, because you're not caring. People don't care about what you have to say until they know that you care about them. And so relationships are number one, caring about them. The best way that you can show that you care is actually listening to someone, because then you're having a real conversation, you're building real rapport. Right. So that's number one. And then number two, another identifier, and I'm going to come back to follow up, is if I follow up, the tedious, boring thing shows that I care enough to remember you and to contact you again, whatever level it is, right? There's different levels to that relationship that you could go to. You could go deeper and more caring. You could be more shallow, but nonetheless, you're building a relationship if I continue to touch you and communicate with you. So follow-up is relationships at its best, right? Even if you take it down to a relationship like a family member, your relationship is better and stronger the more often you communicate with that person, which, by the way, is nothing more than follow-up.
That's so true. So true. We lose sight of that, don't we? It's easy.
We do. I remember every time that I'm like, man, I haven't talked to my mom in weeks. I need to follow up. I don't call it follow up, but that's really what I'm doing. I need to reach out and talk to her. That's a follow up. That's a relationship.
We assume relationships will continue without the work, and they don't, do they?
They don't.
So, how when you're a real estate agent, and a lot of entrepreneurs are in the same boat, right? They're bootstrapping, they're scraping everything they can to make the business grow. And so the money you put into making it grow can sometimes be overwhelming.
Mhm.
What do you think is a necessary budget, marketing budget, to make your efforts really return to you with an ROI that's meaningful?
Whew, that's a fun and interesting question that could go into a whole topic on its own. Because I bootstrapped all three of those startups, and one of them was with nothing. I'm challenging the answer because you can theoretically do it with nothing. So I will answer it this way because it also depends on where you're at and what you're doing. The reality is. Um, when I say you can do it with nothing, I mean you can do it with no money. But if you're doing it with no money, understand that means you are going to put in a lot of time and a lot of effort personally. I mean, endless hours a day to do that until you have the money so that you can invest properly in marketing to continue to bring that lead funnel in. The the simpler answer, and I'll broadly stream it, it really is identifying, so what's the right budget depends on where you want to go and knowing where you can start. So I love to do two things. One, and you could do this in any market. If you could find out what it costs you for the business you're going to go into to acquire a customer, right? A paying customer. That's the first thing you need to find out, because then that can help you set your marketing budget. Right? If it like, so I use a real estate transaction, and this would depend on the market you're in, right? So different parts of the country might cost you $1,000 to get a deal that could make you 10,000, right? Or different part of the country, it may cost you $5,000 or $6,000 to get the same deal, but you might make 30 or 40,000 off that deal. So great ROI, right? But then your marketing budget would have to say, okay, let's just use 2,000 as the math. If it cost me $2,000 to get a deal and I only have $500, well, you can already see the math says it's going to take 2,000 to get a deal. So you don't have enough marketing money to even get a return at all, right? Now you can fix that by putting in $500 and a lot of sweat equity, a lot of work, endless hours a day of you getting on the phone, calling or texting or doing actual work. Or if you had the budget, the $2,000, well, then you can spend it wisely to go out there and get your first deal. And if you're making 10, now you can reinvest more into more marketing because you do want to ramp that up. And the answer is going to be different for everyone on what's right, because there's really, where do you want to go with your business and your life? I used to think that everyone wanted to scale to the moon and have multi-million dollar and billion-dollar businesses. And I've realized over time and dealing with thousands of people, it's just not true, right? Just because I might have been born with that vision and want and desire, there's another person that's super happy making 30,000 a month and replacing their job and living the life of their dreams. It's not the life of my dreams. That doesn't matter, right? It's still the same for them. So their marketing budget's way different than my marketing budget. But to answer your question, I think it's here's the answer I give everyone when they're starting out is no matter what business you're going into or what you're doing, you have to figure out a budget that you can comfortably spend for the next 90 days, assuming you'll get no result. Now you will get a result, but if you approach it from that way, most people don't. Most people say, I have $5,000 on this credit card. I'm going to go do marketing and I'm going to make a bunch of money. And it never works out. And then that's why I think most businesses fail. Instead, if you only had $5,000 on a credit card, then really you have about $1,850. I'm trying to do quick math, but $1,800 to $1,900 a month for 3 months, right? And why I say 90 days and why I say take that budget and break it out is because what's more important in marketing to get an ROI is consistency. It's just like follow-up. I have to consistently be marketing. So once I start, I can't stop, right? So if I put $5,000 into marketing, I get a lot of marketing out, the deal isn't done instantly most of the time, right? So a lot of times you don't make your money back and you can't reinvest and do it again. So if you spread out whatever you do have into a 90-day thing, now you have consistent marketing. It may be smaller, but that's okay. Smaller could mean 1 deal instead of 3. But once you get the 1 deal, I can always bump the number up a little bit. Now I'm consistently sending a message out no matter what I'm in. And that consistency, just like consistency with your follow-up, is what's going to get you to doing deals and multiple deals.
So, Robert, you also have in realtorinvest.com a membership type program. Is that correct? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, we do. We have a few different things. We have our software. We have done for you services that for people that just want to hire a team. We have the team and resources. And then we do have we have a coaching side to our business that help people. And then we also have just simply a membership site where you can join and learn stuff for free.
So for you, who's your ideal client?
My perfect customer, we can serve everybody, right? But we're very focused. Our ideal customer is someone who is actively doing real estate or actively taking actions towards doing real estate. They have most likely done a deal or several deals, but again, could be someone who hasn't done a deal yet, but is taking the actions and they just keep failing and don't know why, right? I'm okay with that person because they're at least taking actions. Because right there, I know that that person is kind of what we call the sweet spot, right? They're in a place where they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know what's in their way, and we can easily fix that, right? And we can plug in the right things to get them to wherever they want to go and scale them to what level they want. So that's our ideal customer. That's the person that we're mostly focused on what we do. Now we service, some agencies, like our biggest client has 50 agencies underneath them in their umbrella, or another one that has 27 staff members on the team, right? So we service high-end clients. That's not our focus though, because they're much harder to help in the sense that they already have a lot of stuff going on. So there's a lot. It's much easier to take someone who just can't figure out why they're not consistently scaling and fix that and then build their automated business for them.
Robert, our time is almost up. And so pieces that we have left out, things that are incomplete, something that you want to leave with the audience, what would that be?
The biggest one I would leave for everybody, no matter what you're thinking about doing, is from all the failures I've had, so-called failures, all the lessons on life, is focus on something and go all in. And what I mean by that is it's so easy to chase shiny objects and want to do 100 different things. That's why you're not where you want to be. Simple as that. You have to pick one thing that resonates with you and do everything that you can in your power. Every persistent, doors will open, things will occur as you start to do that more often. Focus.
Focus is always a big, big piece. And it is hard for a lot of us to do that because there's so many distractions all the time.
Yes, there is.
So those of you who are listening, we will have information about Robert and his company in the show notes. There will be information about how you can get in contact with him. Should you have any difficulty, please let us know. We'll be glad to make those connections. Robert, thank you so much for being with us in the audience today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a true pleasure.
And for those of you who are listening, thank you for listening. And remember to visit our website at buildtomorrow.com and our social media sites as well. Thank you.
Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell button above. Leave comments. We'd love to hear what you think. And visit our other social media links as well. Thanks much.